This is the Seahawkers Podcast, episode 317. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and joining me, my good buddy and Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
Hey, man, I was wondering if you feel a little like I do today as we sit down here to do the podcast, because I feel a little like that dick parent that when their kid brings home an A- on a test, that well, even if it was a class that was easy for him, the parent kind of looks at him and is like, that's nice, but there's room for improvement.
Yeah, really? What's up with this minus? A-?
Yeah.
You couldn't even get a real A?
Dad, it's an A. A-.
It's an A-.
Yeah.
The Seattle Seahawks beat a team that we were supposed to beat in a manner that they were supposed to beat them. And I think our challenge is, can we be content with a 40-3 win, a 37-point victory, something that doesn't happen all that often? I went back and looked at them. In the Pete Carroll era, there have been, I think, 3 victories of 35 points or more. One was the 35-point win over the Broncos in the Super Bowl. One was the 58-point win over the Arizona Cardinals in 2012. And now this one.
Yeah, and you think it'd be real easy to be content with that. And it's funny because somebody in the Ring of Honor really kind of put it best. They were like, and they're not even going to get credit for this win. And there's a part of it that's like, yeah, they're not even going to get credit for this win. This is this is a quality win. They beat down a team that they should have. It was a relatively relaxing Sunday, right? And then there's the other part of me that's like, yeah, but do they really need to get credit for this win?
Do they really need to get credit for doing what they were supposed to? Scott via SeahawkersPodcast.com comes in, says, finally, we get a blowout where they bring in backups. Hopefully, they will do great the rest of the season. And yes, even it wasn't just the fourth quarter, the last couple drives that we got to see them bring in backups. It was the third quarter that we saw Geno Smith coming in and other backups coming in. That hasn't happened in a while.
No, I can't remember the last time. And
I had to look. It was 2016 against the San Francisco 49ers. Trevon Boykin came in, and I think it was that 2016 season where Russell was hurt because, Russ wants to stay in there. So it was almost out of necessity, I think, that they went to Boykin early in 2016. So maybe that doesn't even count.
One way or the other, I think we can both agree it's a rarity, and it felt good. There was only stress for what, like the first Jets drive of the game, and when we were down 3-0.
Yeah, and they score, and that was the weirdest thing too. The broadcast team bringing up that the Jets had scored on 7 straight opening drives this season.
Yeah,
really?
That is surprising, but they're
0-13 now.
Well, it tells you that Adam Gase is a great scripter of a first drive. And then everything else he sucks at.
Yeah, that baffles me, though. How can you be that good to script for an offense that's that bad and they can execute well for those few plays, but then they disappear and they can't execute after that? And it's not like I guess they can't disappear because they've been competitive in games. And so there was some concern that, hey, they might be competitive against the Seahawks too. And it didn't play out that way.
Well, they were more competitive early in the game than the score would suggest. I mean, if it wasn't for their idiot kicker, getting liquored up and running his mouth. I mean, no, if it wasn't for their idiot kicker missing 3 field goals, I mean, the score is more respectable going into half.
How many kicks did he miss going into the half? Was it just 2 and then 1 after the 3. Half, or was it all 3? Did they miss all 3 in the first half?
Not that it much matters, but he missed 3 field goals.
That's true.
They did get it to field goal range 3 times 4 times technically. And then
they just missed
on the 3. Yeah. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while,
Well, and I think so. This is an area where we can give the Seahawks some credit because, they did hold the Jets to only field goal attempts. And yes, they missed all 3 of them in the first half. So the defense completely held them off in the second half, and to only hold the Jets to 3 points, I think that is worthy of, especially of a team that had struggled as much as it had through the early part of the season. I feel like holding a team to 3 points, any NFL team to 3 points, is something we're celebrating.
Sure. And really, if you wanted to say, well, they held them to 12 points because their kicker should make those, right?
Sure.
Then, okay, yeah, that's still not bad. I mean, and then the defense coming out and putting the clamps down in the second half. And I think all that points to one more set of quarters in a row that we can point at and say, all right, the defense is not trash. They're actually playing to the level that we thought they should going into this game or going into the season. And they got after Darnold quite a bit. They struggled against the run right out of the gate, but kind of locked it down until that one. What was it? Josh Adams? Was that his name? That back came in. Big, tall drink of water. I think it was like 30 something, 35 or whatever his number was. It's like, who the hell is this guy? Just running big and north and south. And they struggled for a moment with that, but really overall did well. And you got to give him credit.
Yeah, Adams finished the day. He was their leading rusher with 27 yards on 6 carries. Gore held to 23 yards, and Ty Johnson, who had become their first 100-yard rusher in, I don't know, like 30-some games, almost 40 games, and they held him to 16 yards. So I think that's another thing that you can point to is not just the points, but the yards. 185 total yards for the Jets. That's the least amount of yards allowed to the Jets this entire season. You know, the Bills had the previous record with 191 yards in week 7. The Chiefs in week 8 held them to 221 yards. So this was a team that put up almost 400 yards on the Raiders, over 300 yards on the Patriots defense, over 300 yards on the Broncos defense. So they had put up yards against other teams. And so I think that's an accomplishment too. The fact that they held this team to the least amount of yards the entire season.
It certainly points in the right direction. And the Jets offense, while much maligned, I mean, they've had spurts, just like you've said. And really, you watch Sam Darnold in this game, and I hope you felt as bad for him as I did. I mean, it's tough to be Sam Darnold in that locker room, on that field, on that team with that coach. I don't know how you do it. And made a couple nice throws. And hey, guess what? He scrambled around a bit too. I told you so.
He got out of some sacks, didn't he?
Yeah, it's almost like one of us knew that and the other one didn't. But that was the whole point of this podcast. I could drop the mic now and get off. I just wanted to.
You just wanted to come on and say, "Oh, he scrambled out of a couple sacks, but finished the day."
He can move around a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean, he has the mobility to do that, but finished the day with 3 yards rushing.
Yeah, well, that's a small feat, on that Jets team. It's just tough sledding out there. Receivers just kind of dropping balls and not getting separation, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him going forward. But we talked a lot about, the defense here to start with, but that wasn't the big question coming into this game. That's not what we all were freaking out about. That's not what was the big thing we needed to see this week. And you saw the offense come out and perform.
You did. And you had an efficient day from Russell Wilson, 21 of 27, 206 yards. And yeah, it's barely over 200 yards, but he left before he even got to the fourth quarter. So 206 yards, 4 touchdown passes, though. He did have 1 pick.
Oh, and the 1 pick. I commend Russ for going deep there. It was a one-on-one shot. That's a good decision by Russell Wilson standards. I mean, that's something he does often, and that's what makes
DK Metcalf had beat the corner, and it was one-on-one with the safety deep.
Yeah. And that safety made a really nice play.
Okay, good.
It wasn't a terrible football.
Yes, I had a similar opinion on this. I was curious to how you approach that too, because absolutely you expect Russell Wilson to throw that ball in that situation. One-on-one with the safety with DK Metcalf makes all the sense. It's just, the safety made a great play. DK wasn't able to maybe make the play on the ball that he wanted to.
And wasn't it 3rd down?
No, it was 2nd and 10.
Well, yeah. The other option would be is that he would do what he's been doing the last few games and double pump and then pirouette backwards and take a 15-yard sack. So, I mean, I don't know which at the end of the day is really all that much worse.
Yeah. I think the only criticism you could maybe even put on Russ on that is maybe he threw it just a touch too late, allowing the safety to get over there. But that would be.
And he had to avoid a tiny bit of pressure there and, reset his feet. So that might be part of that. I really only saw him throw one other ball throughout the day that I was like, huh? And it was a speed out to David Moore in the second half, and he dirted it.
Oh. And was that the one that I think Moore caught that one, though?
No,
okay.
There was no chance of catching it. It was like 5 yards in front of him.
Okay.
But he was kind of scrambling left, and it doesn't matter. That was the only other throw that I saw out of Russ this week where I was like, what is he doing out there? What is he thinking? This doesn't look fluid.
Yeah, my only other issue with when you brought up David Moore is that those quick tosses to the receivers outside, it bothers me when the receivers either back up to receive them or just wait there flat-footed. I don't understand why they don't make a play toward the ball and get, ahead of steam and make it easier to pick up yards after the catch.
So what you're saying is run back towards the quarterback to cut down the distance of balls in flight?
Yeah.
Or okay.
Either do that. Well, whatever you do, don't just sit back on your heels. And like he backed up and then sat down. And so by the time he's, it just seemed like a lot of wasted movement to get going again.
Possibly. I'd have to go back and look at those a little more closely. I hadn't really thought about it in those terms. Mainly, I get mad about those plays because they're bubble screens. Or smoke screens, whatever you want to call them.
Well, and I think there's a way to run it that gives the receiver a little bit more of an advantage than David Moore kind of gave himself. But
yeah,
it's ticky-tack
in like an orbit motion around behind the quarterback before the snap, and you have him in motion kind of going forward. So it's almost like an extended pitch.
But I think what they were trying to do was just expose the fact that the Jets were playing so far off. And there were a lot of times in this game where the Jets, it was the same criticism that we had about Quentin Dunbar playing 10 yards off of the receiver. And that's how you get him to stop doing that. If you don't want him to do that, is just take the easy yards. But I think you're able to pick up more yards if you're moving in the process of catching the ball rather than waiting for the ball to get there. And then, as you're waiting for the ball to get there, the DB's, coming in on you. And so you end up only picking up 3 or 4 yards.
Yeah. No, there's something to that. I wonder if you kind of bring him like from the outside all the way out past the hashes and, kind of motion him back towards the quarterback a step or two as the play begins. So he's already kind of moving that direction.
Yeah. I even at the snap, I think you can start moving that direction.
Well, you'd have to back up to get behind your blockers. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah. This one, they didn't have any blockers. Yeah, you know what? This is probably one that we could break down on video sometime and just to
sure,
so people can understand what I'm talking about and you can see what I'm talking about too. So, we could look at the 49ers and the Rams, who I think do this a little bit better, but it's not a play that the Seahawks seem to run well. Anyway, Let's talk about what they have done well, apart from Russell Wilson looking like himself in this game.
Seahawks out of the huddle on 1st and goal from the 5. The hand to Chris Carson. He jumps over him and he's in. Touchdown, Seahawks. Chris Carson, with that great leaping ability, just jumps over a man and into the end zone. And the Seahawks increase their lead to 23-3.
Yeah, there was obviously Chris Carson's play on the day. I mean, he looked phenomenal, dominant. I mean, a couple huge runs in that game, flexing on people, looking like, the second best back in the league, maybe to Derrick Henry. And again, it's against the Jets, so take it however you want. But yeah, monster day running the football. Carlos Hyde had a few nice runs. They kept Russ pretty clean throughout the game.
No sacks. He was sacked one time that ended up being a penalty for illegal contact downfield. And maybe there were a couple times where those came on sacks. I know that there were a couple times on like key third downs where the Jets just got a penalty that kept the drive going for the Seahawks. So
one of those, it was the one he took the sack. It was 3rd and 7, and it was on the drive that Disley scored.
Right.
It was in the middle of that drive. It's 3rd and 7. And I went back and watched this play 3 times to make sure that I was seeing what I was seeing here. Russ takes the snap, drops back, and all of the receivers, short of the tight end leaking out into the flat, are all running either goes or slant and goes or double moves. I mean, at the sticks, right?
Yeah.
And this is something you've harped on before. Not one dude was even close to being ready to receive the football. They were all going 20 yards down the field, going for a kill shot on 3rd and 7. And he ends up taking the sack because by the time he hits the back step of his drop, the way the play kind of unfolded, it was impossible to hit the check down. So all of his options just waiting on all these long developing routes to come open. And of course, he ends up taking the sack because of it.
It's interesting because I think it was one of the guys at field goals that kind of diagnosed where Russ was taking all of these big sacks, and they were all in between the 40s, whether it was on the Seahawks side or on the opponent's side. They like going for the kill shot in that particular area. So I think maybe that other teams are starting to pick up on this.
Yeah, maybe that's exactly the case. But other than that, game plan was good. They ran a few screens, which I was excited to see them run screens. Fortunately, they almost all failed. I don't know what.
Well, the Jets were, it's not like the Jets were blitzing them regularly.
No, but Russ just can't complete the screen pass right now.
Yeah.
It's just not working for him. But other than that, I mean, it was a great game. Russ, again, like you said, looked efficient. The thing I liked the most, and I kept track of, was the ball was snapped somewhere around 10 seconds on the average. Yeah. Instead of 3, 2, 1, 0-0, snap the ball. The offense had more pace and tempo. And I think that, honestly, when it's all said and done, was the biggest difference in the game.
Yeah, they did have the one timeout they had to take right at the end of the first quarter that I think they got into the huddle at like 15 or 16 seconds. And I'm like, okay, call the play quickly, get out of the huddle. And then by the time they got out of the huddle, it was like 7 seconds left and there was no time to line up. So they ended up taking a timeout. But that was the one time. So yeah, other than that, the tempo was good.
The tempo was good. And I think that just keeps everybody in a lot better rhythm going down the field. Because it did. It just felt like Shoddy's play calling, Russ, the linemen, everybody was really on the same page for this game.
So A- for tempo, A- for play calling.
Mm-hmm.
Any other A- we want to hand out?
I'd give one to Geno, but he would have had to have been better.
What are you talking about? He was 4 of 5.
Yeah, I guess so.
He completed a larger percent of his passes than Wilson did.
No.
80%. Well, 80% on the day for Geno.
Here's the thing, though, Brandon. Russ had more yards.
He did. He also played for 3 quarters instead of just 1. But
hey, like I said, don't bother me with your facts, logic, and reason. I'm using the most important stat in judging a quarterback, yards.
You don't think Gase was on the sideline thinking, it's too bad I don't have Geno Smith for my quarterback instead of Sam Darnold.
Yeah. I mean, they had him at one point, didn't they?
Yeah. Not Gase, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was more of a revenge game than I realized for so many guys. I'd kind of forgotten that Shoddy was the OC there back in the Favre days and the Sanchez days.
Yep.
You had Jamal Adams, of course.
Jason Myers, who was there just before he came back to the Seahawks.
Yeah, that's right.
He went to the Pro Bowl. Yeah.
So you had the Jason Myers revenge game. Yeah, it was
Brandon Shell. I mean, even though he didn't play.
Yeah, well, he played the first half, I think.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Pete said he tweaked his ankle a little bit and a couple too many times, and so that's why they took him out and put in Wheeler.
Yeah, it was kind of in that moment while I was watching the game. I was like, oh yeah, he was with the Jets. Oh yeah, he was with the Jets. I was like, do we have too many former Jets on this team?
Maybe.
I don't want that stink here, you know?
Yeah, Shell played 29 snaps, so that's...
okay.
Yeah, a pretty good amount.
All right. It probably wasn't until later in the game that I started looking and I finally just realized, is Brandon Shell in the game?
Yeah.
Because, to be honest, Brandon, I didn't pay a lot of attention to the game when I watched it. It was pretty quick. I even watched the condensed version.
It was relaxing.
Yeah.
There wasn't really anything to get in there and diagnose. I mean, I want to go back and just recognize some of the performances on defense too, because we've waited this long. Jamal Adams got the sack record, and maybe you watching the condensed version didn't even pick up what play it came on, but he got the sack record held by Adrian Wilson of the Cardinals. He had 8. I'm kind of bummed that Adams didn't get to celebrate it properly, but he didn't even know what play it came on right after it happened.
That shows you just how focused he is on that number,
well,
right?
It's one of those plays that if you're not really keyed in on the rules of how they count sacks, you probably didn't pick it up, because essentially all that happened was that Sam Darnold ran out of bounds and it was Jamal Adams in pursuit. Adams put a hand on him and Darnold ran out of bounds short of the line of scrimmage. And so when that happens, it's the last dude to touch you, and that was Jamal Adams.
Wow. That's like the least dramatic sack of all time.
Right. Yeah, usually quarterbacks, when they're not able to get back to the line of scrimmage, they like to throw the football away in that situation and get, that way it's back to the line of scrimmage. But no, he just walked out of bounds and took the loss.
Well, if you're the quarterback of the New York Football Jets, I mean, don't you just take the loss in every aspect of life?
So yeah, congratulations to Jamal Adams for getting the record in the least sexy way possible.
Yeah, but he did get the record. And this is something that we talked a little bit about on the last podcast. I do think it's impressive. I do think this is your kid coming home with an A+.
Yeah.
And you should be excited about it. Now, getting the record for sacks by a DB, that's a big deal. And that's exactly what we needed from him this year. Even while missing 4 games, still being able to produce at this level. I like that production next year over whatever player they would have picked towards the end of the first round. I can tell you that. And probably the guy combined that they would have picked the next year at the end of the first round.
Yeah, I'm guessing we're going to get more out of Jamal Adams over the next couple of years than either of those picks combined. And yeah, well, it'll be one of those things where we wait and see. But, it's now we can celebrate having the guy with the all-time sack record. And as you pointed out, did it already missing 4 games, still having 3 games to go. Pete Carroll gave him the game ball, and it was something that he talked about after the game. It's something that he doesn't actually do all that often, is give game balls to players. And when he was recognizing the fact that this was an all-time NFL record, he thought Jamal deserved it.
I think that's a good thought by Pete. I didn't know that he had done that, and that's a pretty classy move. I also didn't realize that was a rarity for him. You'd think, Pete pats everybody on the head. You'd think he'd hand out like 7 game balls for everybody, like being on Oprah. A game ball for you and a game ball for you.
Well, he said that they do other things to recognize the players. So he hands out those kinds of awards in different ways. It's just apparently he doesn't do game balls, and I don't know why that is. I don't think anybody asked him exactly why he's so stingy with the game balls necessarily, but I guess that makes it so it's that much bigger of a deal when a Seahawk does get it.
Oh, yeah. Delayed praise, I guess. But yeah, cool by Adams, making that trade worthwhile. And also kudos to him for getting it against his old team. That's got to make it a little extra sweet.
I wish that he could have done it in, a little more spectacular fashion. I'm sure he does too. He said he had a Warren Sapp sack dance all lined up for it. So maybe we'll get to see that rolled out. As he said, he's going to smash the record. So we'll see.
So basically, you're not mad at the record-breaking sack. You're just disappointed in it. That's what I'm hearing.
I'm giving it an A-.
An A-.
Shaquem Griffin got his first regular season sack of his career in this game. So 1 regular season, 1 postseason in the sack totals for him. Snacks Harrison, he only was in for 23 snaps, but he led the team in stops with 4. He caused the fumble that was the 1 turnover that the Seahawks got. I guess if you're going to give out, less than A-, you can give out probably a failing grade for the Seahawks and their ability on defense to hold on to the football when it was thrown right at them.
Yeah, a couple missed picks there, but sticky coverage overall. A couple of those picks, I wouldn't credit to Ken Norton scheming up a great defense. That was some horrific decision-making by Darnold.
Right.
Just throw it directly to dudes. I don't know.
Well, they threw one right to Adams' chest and it just bounced off. And Ugo had one that I think he was looking to house. And then you had KJ just knocking it out of the hands of Poona Ford.
Right. Yeah, there was definitely potential for a lot more turnovers in this game. No doubt about it.
Yeah. See, they should have won 50-3. That's why we're mad.
Yeah, just super angry. So angry.
So angry. Jaron Reed led the team with 4 pressures in this game. And I want to give credit to the pass defense too, because, and I talked about it a little bit before, but going into this game and, well, even still after, the Seahawks are ranked last in the NFL for yards allowed per game for 2020. They're number 32. The Jets are number 31. But if you look at just the last 3 games, 132 yards per game, which is first in the NFL right now.
Right. Couple quarterbacks in there named Colt McCoy.
Yeah. Colt McCoy.
Sam Darnold. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. 16 team. Yeah. Not exactly world beaters, but hey, you're right.
You had former MVP candidate Carson Wentz in that group too.
That's true. Who got benched for not a quarterback, but it was cool to see that there was sticky coverage, throughout the day. It helps with the pass rush being consistent and kind of coming from all angles. It's been a positive showing the last 3 weeks, no doubt, on the pass defense end of things. And I think we've kind of settled into the main dudes we want out there on passing plays. Our top 3 corners, that being Shaq, DJ Reed has been a revelation, and Ugo.
Yeah.
I thought Ugo flashed a couple times in this game.
Yeah, except for dropping the 1 interception. Yeah, I thought he was fine out there.
Exactly. And those guys working together a little bit more often now with Diggs and Adams as well. I think the communication's getting a little better, and they seem to be settling in. And I think those are your crunch time corners at this point.
Do you think that that's who they stick with now going down the stretch?
why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I don't know.
Who else would you put in there?
Well, I just wonder if the team will look back and say, yeah, look at the quarterbacks that you played in those 3 games. When is Flowers or even Dunbar going to be back? I'm curious if they'll look at that and say, oh, well, it was, kind of against some scrub quarterbacks, and these were our starters before they went out to injury, and so we're going to go back to them.
Look, DJ Reed has played well every time he stepped on the field. Whether or not it's been in Trey Flowers' spot or playing nickel or taking over for Shaquille for a couple games there, he's been good all over the field. Why wouldn't he be your number 2 corner at this time? I mean, he's better than the Civ Dunbar, right? I mean, we can all say that for sure.
Sure.
And Flowers, while showing improvement, I still take DJ Reed out there at this point.
Yeah, I'm curious what they'll do.
I don't know. I'll tell you what they should do, and it's that.
Yeah, I think I think I get where you're going with this. You want those 3 out there.
It just has looked the best. And I've liked Ugo going back since he was drafted here. I mean, he's played really consistently. And now I understand he got torched in the playoff loss to Green Bay last year as a rookie, mind you.
Against Devontae Adams, yeah. And a game where he really didn't play all that significant amount of time. I think they brought him in more at the end of the game.
Exactly. Tough place for a rookie. But otherwise, I think he's played really solid all the way across the board. Very versatile player.
Yep, we had a good showing from him, and I mentioned a lot of the other defensive players. So up against the Jets, yeah, I think overall A- performance by the defense. So, all right,
tough teacher, man. They were a tough grader
because you got to mark them down. You got to mark them down for the drops.
Got to mark them down for the drops. Doesn't that just go from A+ to A at that point? Like pluses, you make the catches. A's are you were in position and you did well. A- would be like you were out of position and the guy happened to drop it, but still good.
Yeah, well, Collier did have that one like easy sack that Darnold slipped out of like strangely. So I'm going to credit Collier, and that's why I'm marking him down.
Okay. Oh, so not only that, but you're calling Collier up in front of the whole class and letting him know that he's bringing down the collective grade.
He brought it down from A to A-. It was solely on his shoulders. Okay, throw in Shaquille Griffin's 2 missed tackles. Well, that way you won't be alone up in front of the class.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, still sucks to be them on the playground at recess, man.
We would have had an A if it wasn't for you two.
Exactly. I'm not out here busting my ass for nothing. Come on.
All right. Is there anything else you wanted to say about the Jets?
Not really. I was thinking coming into this podcast, I was like, oh, well, there should be plenty to talk about. I mean, big victory, 43. Russ looks good. Da, da, da. And then it was like, well, that was pretty much it. Big victory, 43. Russ looked good. Defense played well. Done. Put a bow on it.
I mean, what else can you say apart from, the historical aspect of it, of not being a whole lot of blowouts, even in the Pete Carroll era? I don't think. But even if you look at that, I don't think there's any conclusions that you can draw. It's just that they got a big win against a team that's not good.
I think we both would have felt a lot better about this win against the Jets if they'd done something similar to the Giants.
Or it even just
like they were supposed to.
Yeah. Got a touchdown victory, and it wasn't,
2-score victory, never was in doubt, and Russ played well. I think we all would have been like, oh, this is more impressive. At least doing it twice in a row. Now you go into Washington and get to take on that team, which they're no New York Jets.
No. And apart from Chiefs Saints this weekend, this, I think, is the best game on the slate of this weekend's games. And I think that tells you a little bit about where this weekend's games are going. But it's one of the few games where both teams are both playing for a playoff spot. And if the Seahawks win this game against Washington, they're in the playoffs.
Yeah, control your own destiny right now. Like, win this game, make sure you make the playoffs, and then that sets you up with a great opportunity, a good seed going into the dance, and then also feeling good about yourself. I mean, it has to start here with the Washington football team. Boy, that's going to be hard to say every time, but I'm going to do it.
You can say Washington. You can say the football team. You can say...
Yeah, I don't like just the football team.
You're going to have to get used to that because they're going to stick with this name of the football team, and that's just what they're going to be.
No, there's no way. You can't do that.
No?
No. You'd sell a lot more merch if you changed it again.
That's true.
keep getting them checks.
Yeah, you got to wait 3 or 4 years. So people who are holding off for the 1 year go, oh, maybe they are keeping this. And then when that starts to pick up again, that's when you change
Okay,
it.
2 years then. 2 years. That's how you do it. But not a moment longer because it's super lame.
Call them the FT.
The FT, yeah. I'm not a fan either. It's starting to get soccery, you know?
Uh-huh.
I don't want that.
I did hear somebody call them the football club during one of the broadcasts this weekend.
Probably a soccer fan.
Could be.
What's he even doing in the booth? He doesn't know anything about real football. Get him out of there. No, Washington, I think, is obviously a better team than what we've just faced. They're better coached. They play hard. Watching a little bit of that Niners Washington game, their defense is no joke. I mean, their guys look good in coverage, and we all know about the defensive line. I mean, there's a bunch of studs on there, and that is worrisome. That is the one thing that you feel like as a Seahawks fan this year is when you've gone up against a good defensive line, that's when you've seen this offense have its biggest struggles.
Well, they're a lot like the San Francisco 49ers. They've been bad enough years to accumulate multiple first-round picks on their defensive line. And so after a while, it starts to get pretty dangerous. Yeah, this is a dangerous defensive line. It's a dangerous team overall. You look at what they've been doing over the last 8 games even. Well, just over the last 4 games, they're on a 4-game winning streak. They're the second hottest team in the NFL right now. The Chiefs, the hottest with the 8-game winning streak. But when you look back over the last 8 games, it was, go back to after the week 5 loss against the Rams. And, coincidentally, maybe the first appearance by Alex Smith. But in week 6, they lost by just 1 point to the Giants because they went for 2 rather than tying it up with a kick at the end of the game. In week 7, they got the win, and the Cowboys only scored 3 points in that game. Week 9, Alex Smith, he took over relatively early. Kyle Allen got hurt in that game. Smith comes in, has 2 chances at a game-winning or game-tying drive against the Giants, and both of those attempts ended up in intercepted passes. Week 10, they tied the game with the Lions with just 21 seconds left, and Matt Prater hit a 59-yard field goal as time expired to win. So they have been in it and close or winning in their last 8 games.
Yeah, and they play pretty disciplined football. I think that was something that impressed me, just watching a little bit of what they've done over the last few weeks. And this is a team that will actually tell us a little bit more about where we are as this franchise goes down the stretch here and tries to win this in the 4th quarter of the season and make a good, strong playoff push. And this is the type of team that this offense could struggle against. So if they can actually go out there, keep the tempo up, just not go for the bomb on every single 3rd and medium in between the 40s, maybe they really show us the offense that they can be going down the stretch.
And that was one thing that they did fix up pretty well against the Jets. They did have some bomb attempts. You had that one attempt to David Moore that he was there and open and it went off his hands. I think you looked at that 1 3rd and 7 play where they went for it and they ended up taking the sack, but got bailed out by a penalty. But other than that, that was all. I think the longest pass in that game against the Jets was the throw to the back of the end zone, the touchdown to Freddie Swain that kicked it all off. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and other than that, I don't think they had any other passes that were completed beyond 20 yards.
Yeah, that it was an adjustment in the game plan. And again, just Russ looking decisive. I mean, he's going to need that going against Washington. Like I said, I've just been kind of impressed with the way that they've been coached. I mean, between Rivera and Del Rio, I mean, that's a couple respected coaches in this league that other coaches look at as quality guys. And even though they don't have a lot of the name brand talent that we're used to, they're a scarier team than you'd think. The question is, I guess in my mind, are we going to see Alex Smith or is it going to be Dwayne Haskins?
Yeah, that is going to be the question. It seems like they're saying that he may be able to play. He didn't practice on Wednesday. I know there is some concern because it's the calf strain in the calf of that same injured leg. He said it was a freak thing that that it's not related to it, but it has to be concerning just when you consider the history of that leg.
The history of that leg. I didn't know we would get to this.
Yeah, I think that leg is going to they're going to put it in the Hall of Fame somehow.
it's going to have its own historical wing.
They'll take a little mold of the Alex Smith leg that was, nearly amputated and put it in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. When you speak of the history of that leg, it does make you appreciate what Alex Smith has been able to do this year. And I know it's been talked about ad nauseum, but I'm rooting for the guy that way. It's been cool to see him back out there and playing, even though it's been up and down. So if I think about that, I'm like, who would I rather see in this game? I still think I'd rather see Haskins.
Oh, as far as what gives you a better chance to win?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Haskins this year. And you see it, repeated among fans of the football team, is that they feel as though if Alex Smith is going to play, that they have a chance. And if Haskins plays, they just don't see any opportunity for victory. Now, we heard that from Giants fans, too, who said with Colt McCoy in there, they didn't have a chance to win. And come to find out, watching Daniel Jones against the Cardinals, I think maybe the Seahawks would have had a better chance to win with Daniel Jones in there.
You think, is this an NFC East ploy? Is this something that they all do?
Maybe.
Hey, I don't know if our guy's going to play or not. Oh, he's not going to play. We have no chance. And they just reverse psychology the other team.
Yeah.
Is that what happened to him last week against the Giants? They got reverse psychologied.
It might be.
It's good explanation as any. Yeah. And here the Redskins trying to pull this same crap right here. This is an NFC East tactic.
See, and you can just, you get tired of even trying to say the football team. You just divert yourself to the former name of this football team.
Did I do it already?
Yeah.
Dang it.
I know you're working through it.
I am. It was a lifetime of calling him one name. It's a tough habit to break.
You'll get there.
Yeah.
But this Washington defense, it is tough. And a big part of it's the defensive line. And the one concern I have, they're only allowing 63 rushing yards per game over the last 3 weeks. That's best in the NFL. And they're, I think, top 5, 6 when you look at their run defense. And in the pass defense, they're good too. So there really isn't a weakness to where you can go into the game saying, well, you just have to throw it against this team rather than run it. No, this is a very well-rounded, good defense. And I do think that on the back end, they probably have some help from the fact that they are so good at getting after the quarterback.
Yeah, they are great at creating pressure. And I do think that makes that secondary look a lot better than maybe it is. They do have some ballers back there. I mean, Landon Collins is a good player.
Oh, yeah.
One thing, you talked about the run defense a little bit, and I watched a bit of that 49ers game, and where they seemed to have success was on the edges with that, wide zone run and, all the action that they run off of that. And that was a big bonus to them. Usually when Mullins was able to kind of get it rolling, it was something based off that, whether it was a boot action based off of that or actually running the stretch zone or, some sort of counter with it. And, but running it up the middle. Yeah. Good luck with that.
Yeah. So maybe we need to see more of Penny Hart again in this game, huh?
Yeah. I mean, is it possible we could see a different Penny?
I know that Penny's supposed to be returning to practice this week. I don't know if we see him in the game quite yet. I feel like there's got to be some ramp up time before he ends up making it to the game.
I don't know. Because Penny Hart took a couple carries there, and I was like, Penny. It made me think of the other Penny for a second. And then I realized I was like, oh no, this is just some guy that barely made the team, but somehow is fast and is actually doing things out there.
Well, as opposed to Rashad Penny?
Yeah.
Oh, he's not back in yet.
No, he's not back in yet. But it gave me this false sense. Oh, did he come back and I didn't know? Just because.
Yeah, it's not fair to throw in another guy with the name Penny.
Nope, you can only have one penny per team. That is a league mandated rule, and the Seahawks are getting fined every week for this, I'm sure.
Well, on the back end, you mentioned Landon Collins. The other guy is Cameron Curl, and he was responsible for putting up points on the board last week. It was the Chase Young 47-yard fumble return. It was the Cameron Curl 76-yard interception return. And those 2 touchdowns, that is what helped Washington beat the 49ers last week.
Yeah, pretty much was the whole thing, is that their defense scored 14 points. And so obviously taking care of the football is going to be a big deal in this game. And
you know what, though? I have faith in Russell Wilson that he can do that versus Nick Mullins.
Oh, absolutely. I would feel a lot better about having Russ back there. No doubt about it. I mean, Mullins being what did we decide? The 3rd best quarterback in the division, 4th, something like that.
I think we put
him
ahead
of Garoppolo. I know that much.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was not a good showing for him against Washington. So
he had some moments. He had some bonehead moments too.
The one thing that was surprising was hearing 49ers fans after this game just talk about how washed up Richard Sherman seems now. I don't know if you heard any of that.
I've not heard much talk about that, but I haven't really watched much of them since Sherman's come back from his injury this year.
Yeah.
So maybe that has changed things. I mean, when you're a guy that's been hurt a couple times and has a tough time keeping up in running as it is, you're going to struggle even more. I mean, at some point, there's going to be that one injury that totally knocks you out and you're just not the same guy anymore.
Yeah, and that's what they've kind of been saying is that he's had one too many leg injuries now, and it's taken enough off that he can't be the same type of productive player that he used to be.
Yeah, we'll see. People have thrown dirt on him before, and he's come back pretty good.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm not writing Richard Sherman off of anything yet.
No.
But that Niners team, watching them against the Washington professional football team.
There you go. Just elongate the name, and that'll help you through this.
Yeah, be a little more sarcastic about it, or have a little more disdain of having to say it. The Niners actually played really hard. It really felt that way to me, and it was a competitive game that way. And it made me also think that, okay, well, we got Washington this week, Rams next week, and then we finish up with the Niners. And I was like, they haven't given up on this season.
No, they haven't. I'd kind of like them to, though.
I don't think they're going to. Apparently, they're going to get Kittle back like this next week. You got to give Shanahan and the Niners credit for playing hard despite having what seems like a lost year.
Yeah, I don't think I have to give them credit, but I understand that you might want me to.
I'm kind of trying to reverse jinx them about 3 weeks out.
That's a good idea. Well, that game's going to be played in Arizona, so it kind of stinks altogether that we have to play a second game in Arizona this season.
Yeah, I mean, I hate the history of that field. Hey, not only that, but speaking of this last game against the Jets, no major injuries. That was a big win.
Oh, yeah. And the fact that they got to pull their guys, I think helped contributed to that too. Because, yeah, you hate to see them trying to get Russ 5 or 6 touchdown passes and have something bad happen to anybody on the team in the process of trying to do that. So, yeah, another good callback to the Jets game.
Yeah, A+.
You know what? That is worthy of an A+.
Okay. Glad we agree.
Well, I do think a lot of this is going to come down to whether or not Alex Smith plays or Dwayne Haskins plays. Just Haskins, you look at the way the quarterback performs under pressure versus having time in the pocket versus being blitzed. Haskins, there are no redeeming qualities for him. And at this point in his career, yeah, he's still relatively young. But if you're going to be at least a starting caliber quality quarterback, you start to see some of that by now. And you're not seeing that with Haskins.
No, and it's not a gigantic surprise with him coming out of college. The biggest knock for me was he's basically a younger Joe Flacco. I mean, he's got a nice arm. You can sling it around, no doubt.
Flacco was decisions. He took care of the ball a lot better than
even
Haskins
early. I don't know. Yeah, probably.
Maybe.
Probably so.
I guess I don't remember back to Flacco's early years.
Right. But the biggest thing that is the similarity between the two is they're both statues. Haskins can't run. I mean, if you want to talk about, Darnold not being able to move, then Haskins is whatever is more permanent than a statue. He's a pyramid back there.
Yeah, he went for -12 against the Niners. His season high was 7 rushes for 17 yards week 1 against Philly. So an average of 2 yards per attempt. Yeah, he is not mobile.
He's not mobile at all. And in this day and age, you have to have at least like a Darnold's level of mobility, right?
I think you even have to have better than Darnold. Like Darnold is, I don't know, maybe he's the midpoint.
Yeah, he's at the bottom end of whatever is acceptable for mobility as a starting quarterback in the league.
There's the Dalton scale for quarterbacks and ability to start, and there's the Darnold line for quarterbacks and their ability to run.
Yeah, mobility in this day and age.
Right.
20 years ago, it didn't matter. You could just sit back in the pocket and
throw darts all you wanted. Yeah.
Yeah, it was preferred, if anything. So, yeah, the game is just kind of not fitting to Haskins' skill set right now. It might switch all around later, but right now it's the era of the mobile quarterback. And that's why, really, if anything, I wouldn't want to see Alex Smith. I mean, his play since he's come back from this injury, again, just the fact that he's there is awesome. It's been erratic at best.
Oh, yeah.
And you could totally think that you're going to turn him over a couple times, and it's all dink and dunk stuff. I hope these guys, actually play up like they have been on all the receivers and just try to take all that away. If they beat you once over the top, whoop-de-doo.
Yeah, Alex Smith has had one game with a quarterback rating over 90, and that was that win over the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, again, you have to at least have some worry about a team in Washington that can beat an undefeated team like the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, yeah, it shows that they can put it together for 60 minutes here and there in the season. The Jets can't put it together for 15 minutes.
No.
But
they can put it together for one drive.
Yeah. Washington, they obviously have the ability to do it. Now, they don't do it on a regular basis, and that's why the record is what it is. But there is enough talent there. There is enough players there in coaching that every now and then they can put it all together. And you just hope it isn't against our beloved Seahawks this week. Because if they go down to the Washington football team, that's not going to feel very good as a Seahawks fan going into that Rams game when not only that, but you've lost the clinching spot or you didn't clinch your opportunity to be in the playoffs if you end up losing to Washington.
Yeah, the only way that they can clinch, and I do want to talk a little more playoffs after the break, but the only other way they can clinch with a loss this weekend is if the Bears and the Vikings tie. And I don't see rooting for a tie is weird anyway, and it's not likely to happen. I don't even like that They put it on the list of possibilities, but I guess because it could happen, they put it on there.
That's exactly right. And no, I don't want to have to root for something like that.
Well, let's take a break. We will come back, take a look around the NFC West, how things are shaping up for the playoffs in the NFL, and welcome some new members of the flock. Getting into the second half of the show, and as we talked about, the Seattle Seahawks in a very good position to make the playoffs. It's like a 98% chance, but there is that small chance that they couldn't get in. And with a loss this weekend, it would make me worry about it that much more. And that's why they have to win, Adam.
I think they will. And this would be, let's say they lost to Washington. It would be a bad loss, but it wouldn't be a ridiculous loss. We've already had the ridiculous loss of the season.
Yes.
That one to Giants. Like, we don't need another one or one even close to it. I think we're past that point.
And they could lose this game and still win the division by winning out the final two games against LA and against San Fran. I think they can still do that by beating the Rams.
I would feel like the Rams would have to lose one somewhere in there too.
Really?
But maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten out the playoff wizard page calculator that you play on. So I don't know.
Well, the Seahawks, they would have the edge, I think, in non-conference wins because they have 3 non-conference wins.
Okay.
Within the division, I think that they would end up potentially being tied depending on what the Rams do. Because the Rams, they still have to play Arizona in week 17 when the Seahawks are playing the 49ers. So, yeah, I would just rather get the playoffs thing locked up because what you don't want to have happen is have this big... One thing I did mess around with the playoff generator on is that if the Seahawks were to finish 9-7 and end up having multiple teams at 9-7, say the Cardinals and the Bears. And so if it's the Cardinals, Bears, Vikings, Seahawks, like a 4-team tie or even a 3-team tie at 9-7, then I think the Seahawks end up losing on that because their division record would be so poor in that case.
That is something I won't even entertain. There's no possible way they go 0-3 over the next 3 games.
That seems unlikely.
They're going to get one.
Well, and even if they do, there are other things that are more likely to happen. I don't think the Bears are going to win 3 straight or the Vikings are going to win 3 straight. Like, that's going to be pretty difficult for those 2 teams.
It also feels unlikely. But hey, why leave it to chance? Go out there, take care of business against Washington, and then you can focus on that next game. And I just hope they don't end up doing the overlook Washington thing because the Rams are up next and it's for all of the marbles and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It worries me a little bit because how many times have we seen this Seahawks team come down the stretch and they can lock up something playoff wise, like 4 weeks out, and they don't do it and they don't do it and something else happens and comes down to the last week. We have this dramatic week 17 game. This happens all the time with this team.
Well, it happened against the Giants. They had an opportunity going down the stretch to have that number 1 seed in their sights. And I think that loss to the Giants is going to do it. Now, it could still happen to where they get the number 1 seed, but they have to finish 12-4, and then the Packers are going to have to lose multiple games, because I think when it comes to the tiebreaker, the Packers and Saints may both have the tiebreaker over Seattle in that situation. I was trying to play with that with the generator too, but it got a little bit too complicated. I think
I'll take
those
the word
teams
on that when it comes to the ties, because it's about when it starts getting to the tiebreaker stuff where I just kind of like tune out and like, just let me know when it all actually happens.
Here I am trying to plug in all the different possible chances of what could happen in the games that could work out. But yeah, it's just better to wait and see. And I don't think they're going to be able to get a first round bye as it stands right now either. So maybe the good news is that is not even a possibility. They've already screwed that up. So now all they have to do is go out and get the division title.
Exactly. Which is the one thing that I covet almost more than anything right now, because I'm not sure this is a Super Bowl team. So I'm not looking at the Super Bowl this year as like, yeah, we're getting that. And that's the ultimate prize. It's kind of like, oh, we'll see. But the division right now, I do not want to see the Rams have another division title. Like that would feel so gross. I want that division title more badly than maybe a Super Bowl right now.
You know what the other thing is too, is that Seattle has not gone, since coming to the NFC West, they have never gone 4 years without winning a division title. So if they don't do it this year, that will be the first time that they go 4 or more years without a title.
Also, I'm pretty sure it was true up to this year and currently. The Seahawks have won more division titles since they came to the NFC West themselves than the other 3 teams combined.
Yeah, we need to keep that lead alive.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite ones to rub in Niners or Rams faces.
Yeah, just everybody.
Because Niners will then be like, well, we won more Super Bowls. It's like, yeah, we weren't even in your conference then. So
not that I think that the Seahawks of that era would have competed with the 49ers
that's
of that
not
era.
The
but
point,
it's
Brandon.
But it's not the point. I understand.
It's once we showed up on the block, we've been kicking their ass ever since.
That's right.
They need to remember that.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we got some new kids on the block with our members of the flock. Chad Johnson coming in with $145.44. That's the 12/12 subscription for the whole year. So Chad Johnson coming in for the whole year.
Hey, that's awesome. It's nice having Ocho Cinco in the Ring of Honor.
Ocho Cinco in the flock. I didn't even know he was a Seahawks fan.
He might not be. It might be that he's just a fan of us.
Christopher Stufstadt comes in at $3 a month, says, hi, guys. I've been listening to your show for about a year and a half, and I have really enjoyed it, especially on my long commute to and from work. This is one of my favorite podcasts, and look forward to a new episode every week. Thanks for posting great and fun content, and go Hawks.
Yeah, go Hawks, Chris. I appreciate that. I feel like we go best with a work commute. I feel like that's our niche.
Yeah, we're getting it right in the strike zone for the work commute.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where other people listen to us. I know a few do while they're at work, which I applaud that. I mean, don't give your full attention to work. They're not paying you enough. So I do applaud that maneuver. I was just trying to think of other ways and other things that we know.
Chores around the house?
Chores around the house. We had somebody write in from Alaska say that you take walks like out in the Alaskan winter and listen to us. I remember that.
Which could be dangerous with the bears, but...
Michael Paul, they listen to this over breakfast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Alaska one, though, that they put us on the speaker, right? So that would keep the bears away. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. I was thinking with headphones, but yeah, you wouldn't do that if you were in Alaska.
No.
Well, thanks to our 2 new members of the flock this week. If you get in the flock at any amount, you get an email as soon as the show posts, so you don't have to refresh your app throughout the week. $3 and above gets you into our Discord chat where we talk on game day. $5 and above gets you an I'm a Little Flocker patch. And a huge thanks to Young Choi, who is going to hook us up with another batch of those Seahawkers podcast patches. So yeah, he hit me up this past week because literally I have a stack of, I think, 8. And I think we ordered like 500 the first time. And so we've already gone through almost 500 patches, which is awesome.
Yeah, we need more stinking patches.
More stinking patches. So those are coming soon, and I should have enough for those people in the queue that I'm due to. I just finished up putting together some envelopes of people who are waiting on stickers and patches and all that stuff. So that should go out soon.
Well, I would help you with that, but I'm not going to. So good luck.
Yeah. Appreciate that.
Yeah. No, you're very welcome.
Well, at least I get some more assistance from our executive producers, Dustin Mock and Brian Shaw.
Well, yeah. I mean, just anything's more, right?
Well, I mean, you show up.
Yeah. I can't even give myself an A-.
I give you an A+ every week.
An A+ every week.
Every single week.
You're skewed. You have to. You've known me since kindergarten. Oh, wait, which one of us finished with a higher GPA?
In high school or in...
Yeah. Or just, I'd say overall, but I guess they don't keep track from kindergarten. With that last statement, I think I'm going to give it to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think I finished with like a 3.8 or a 3.9.
Yeah. Yeah, you always wear smarty pants.
Yeah.
Yeah, a 3.3.
Okay. That's
just delightfully slightly above average.
You know what?
Yeah.
My viewpoint now as a parent on grades, like
a little different?
I guess I cared more about it when it was me and less now that I'm a parent. It's weird. Maybe I shouldn't be that way as a parent, but like I should expect more than the A-.
I'll tell you what, Braden, if you want to know how well your child is going to do in their adult life, pay very strong attention to their grades. It'll be the number one determiner of whether or not, they're smart enough to make it in the world.
Really?
Oh yeah. It's fail-safe. Foolproof.
Foolproof. Okay. Well, maybe I do need to get more strict on that then.
Sure.
Should mention our giveaway before we get into the pick'em. tinypiecesofseahawkstuff.com. Go there and comment "Go Hawks," and you'll be entered to win this month's little Russell Wilson piece of jersey for the Tiny Pieces of Seahawks stuff.
Yeah, that's an easy way to enter to get a little piece of rust, right? Like,
oh yeah,
yeah, totally worth it.
Yeah, just go Hawks. That's all you gotta say.
Right.
I think the hardest part is entering in the entire URL of tinypiecesofseahawkstuff.com.
Right.
But I guess
you should be able to type "Go Hawks" just on reflex at this point. Should be very easy.
Like every one of your emails, every one of your texts. That's just
yes.
It should be.
Should be able to say it and type it on reflex. It just pops out. You didn't even know
without even looking. Like you
there.
Don't even have to look at the keyboard. Your thumb just knows like right where to type.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, while I am pulling up our standings for the Pick'em League, why don't we take our trivia call from Jeremy?
What's up, guys? This week we have the question from last week was, rank the following wide receivers in order of career regular season rushing yards as a Seahawk. The choices were Metcalf and Lockett, Joey Galloway and Percy Harvin, Steve Rabel, and Steve Largent. Both of you guys underestimated Joey Galloway. And maybe that's because he only had 4.5 years as a Seahawk, but in those 4.5 years, he has rushed for 50% more yards than Lockett has in 6 years. I think in his first year, he had an 86-yard touchdown and got a lot of carries for that reason. But anyways, Galloway has the most with 378 rushing yards. Lockett is second with 256 rushing yards. Then the other four are much farther behind. Percy is third with 92 rushing yards, only barely ahead of Steve Largent, who had 83 rushing yards. So Largent rushed for only 3 yards more than his career or his jersey number. And Harvin, both of you had Harvin second, but he only had 11 total carries as a Seahawk. So yeah. And then the last two were Rabel and Metcalf. Rabel had 3 career carries and Metcalf only has 2. But still, Rabel has more career rushing yards than Metcalf, which I find enjoyable. So yeah. Some other kind of fun, interesting notes. After rushing 4 times for -5 yards last year, Tyler has no carries this year, and it seems that they have all gone to David Moore. Metcalf has no carries this year either, which I find kind of interesting. I'm curious what you all think about that. Anyways, the question this week is much more simple, but we'll test your Seahawks knowledge. Name the top 5 career rushing leaders for the Seahawks. So who are the Seahawks' top 5 career rushers? I think this is kind of interesting on 2 levels, but I'm curious to see what you all say. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
All right. So we were a little bit off, but when Hong Kong Hawk, Dave Bloomquist, we had a discussion about this in the Ring of Honor group on Facebook. And he did remember Joey Galloway having one 90-yard run. And so, yeah, it makes sense that he would be on top.
It does. Once I knew he had a 90-yarder. I just knew that he probably didn't. Maybe he had more rushing attempts than I remember back then. I mean, in the 6th grade, I didn't pay attention to such thing as wide receiver rushing attempts.
No.
So, yeah, it did slip my mind that Galloway would have that many rushing yards. But whatever. That was a hard question.
It was. Yeah, it was a tough question. And I do like that he threw in Metcalf just to throw us off. See, we were thinking that Steve Rabel would have more than Steve Largent, but it was that Steve Rabel has more than DK Metcalf. That was the trickeration part of that. Yeah,
and Rabel needs to bring that up to Metcalf's face immediately. Because I don't know how long that's going to last, but you got to do it.
It won't last. I can guarantee you that Metcalf is going to finish his career with more rushing yards than Steve Rabel.
Well, you can say that, but right now, the man who has more is Rabel.
That's true. So he needs to brag about it as much as possible now.
You do what? Yes, absolutely.
So top 5 career rushing leaders for the Seahawks. And do we have to get this in order, or are we just, throwing out
it sounded like an order.
Who the top 5 are?
I would say number 1's got to be Alexander.
It's got to be Alexander, then Beast.
Then Beast, you would think so.
And then I think Chris Warren is number 3.
Okay, that was my next guess, was Chris Warren.
Kurt Warner.
And Kurt Warner. What does that get us to?
That's 4.
Alexander, Beast, okay.
I wonder if has Russ reached the top 5 yet?
Oh. Yep, put him in there.
Because he said he said rushing leaders, so he didn't say running backs.
Hey, Ricky Waters
he wasn't here long enough.
Years.
He was only here for 4 years.
Yeah, I know, but Russ is a quarterback too, right? So he's not putting up 1,000-yard years,
true.
And the last couple of years he hasn't put up as much. So it'd have to be a battle between him and a guy who maybe played for
John L. Williams would have been up there.
Yeah, that'd be a.
But
really
he had
guess.
his. I think he finished with almost as many receiving yards as he did rushing yards, but he would be up there.
Yeah. There it is. Yeah, throw in the Tecmo Bowl reference and John L. Williams, and I think you've got your list.
Well, Chris Warren.
John L. Williams, Kurt Warner, Chris Warren, Beast, and Alexander.
Okay. I'm going to go with Russ as number 5. I think Russ has got there.
I like where your head's at on it, but I think it feels unlikely.
Well, I know that he passed 3,000 here recently. So, yeah, maybe he isn't there.
You got to figure all the ground chuck guys have more rushing yards than Russ does.
Yeah, probably. He's getting close, though. I'm tempted to look it up. I'll look it up after the show.
Yeah. You can't taint it right now.
No.
Don't do Jeremy like that.
No, we'll talk about it next week when Jeremy calls in with the results.
I feel confident that we're going to be a lot closer on that one.
Yeah, I feel a lot better about my knowledge of running back yardage standings with the team than wide receivers running. That's for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
Looking at the pick'em standings, week 14, it was Collier Greens, who it was a 12-way tie of, was it 12-way tie of 12 wins? No, even more than that. A lot of people had 12 wins last week, and it was Collier Greens who got his picks in first and is at 143 overall for the league, too.
Oh, solid score, man.
Yeah. Let's see, we got Collier Greens, who is number 3, along with Jonathan Burkholder, Unlimited Hawkra. Tuga Hawk fell to number 2. We have a new number 1, Van Isle Hawk fan.
Oh, he takes the top, Van Isle Hawk fan.
Yeah.
Is he Van Isle, or is he from the Isle of Man?
No, Van Isle.
Van Isle. That sounds like a cool isle, too.
I don't know where it is.
But only vans there. No cars or trucks.
Vans only.
Vans only. It's practical.
Well, on to, we got a mailbag. We got Barry the football team checking in, the BFT.
This would be the week to hear from Barry.
Says, hi, Brandon and Adam. Hope you're all safe and well across the pond. It's that time again when the only 2 teams that matter to John and I play their once in 3 years game. It's been surprisingly good season for us. Whatever happens in the last 4 games, we at least have a defense that requires respect, which is a word that hasn't been associated with my team for many years. Huge credit goes to Riverboat Ron, who, in my completely biased opinion, should be coach of the year for all kinds of reasons. Many thanks for my not picking the Hawks exemption. which brings me to this week's pick. Head or heart? I'm going to hold off until I see how healthy we are and who's playing quarterback. Talking of quarterbacks, how did you manage to lose to the Giants with Colt McCoy at the helm? Anyway.
Don't want to talk about it, Barry.
Yeah, he's got to get his dig in, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Anyway, many thanks for continuing to make the best NFL show. Hope everyone has the best Christmas they can, and good luck the rest of the season. Best wishes, Barry the football team.
Appreciate the email from Barry, of course. Been with us for forever. And look, it's nothing against Barry personally, but I really want John to have the rights to be able to like rub his nose in it. So like the Seahawks have to win this game.
Just for John's sake.
Just for John's sake. I mean, you can't let Barry, the football team, have the upper hand in that relationship.
No. And I appreciate...
He masks being all nice with these emails and stuff, but...
You see, he's got the passive-aggressive Pacific Northwest attitude down.
Oh, I wonder if there's a region of England that's also known for such things.
It could be.
Or is it just the whole empire?
Yeah. And he did wish us the best Christmas we could possibly have. And the good thing is, Barry, is that you and I, Adam, are responsible, hopefully, for getting checks out to everybody in the U.S. here coming up in the next couple of weeks. We're working on that hard.
Been checking in with my people and put a word in there. I mean, crazy, but they were thinking about doing another stimulus bill without giving the average American any money. It's crazy. So we said we couldn't have that. And we got with the Republicans and we let them know what's up.
We put in our calls. Yep.
Yeah. We're all supposed to get what? Like another $1,200?
They're talking 600
in honor of the Seahawks.
They said I think they said 600.
That's not what my people say.
Okay.
They say it should be 1,200.
Yeah, it should be.
For the whole nation, because they're all going to be Seahawks fans soon. They're all going to be 12s. They should get 1,200.
And nothing's for sure yet, but, just know that we're working behind the scenes.
I'm feeling good about it. I'll put it to you that way.
So think of us when it comes to Christmas cards, is what we're saying here.
Yeah.
Getintheflock.com, by the way.
Right. Nice subtle plug.
Also, I had a comment from Bridget in the Discord. Barry mentioned the Giants game, and that's what made me think of Bridget's comment. She said, what about that whole rumor between Russ and Golden Tate? Like, do you think that had anything to do with that game against the Giants?
If there weren't so many people so far removed from that were playing that game.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the people, they weren't even around either of those two teams.
No, but just Russ being in the same building now with Golden, like, was that enough to get in his head about, the past? And we don't even know if it was true, right? That it was Golden that broke up his marriage?
No.
First marriage?
I would say I would put as much truth in that rumor as I would in some of the other ones that I've heard that I just won't repeat because they really are kind of ridiculous. I mean, nobody knows what goes on with two people. Oftentimes, not even those two people. So I don't, for people to say it was Golden for sure. I mean, come on now.
Is the fact that so many fans think that it could be true, is that in Russ's head? And that's what caused him to lose.
Oh, maybe that's it.
Just throwing it
out. I think you've hit on it. This was it.
Well, this is Bridget. Jeez, she knew.
Yeah. Bridget's all over it.
On to do better and better at life.
All right, Brandon, might do better this week. As for America's Game of the Year.
Game of the Year.
This is as good a time as any to talk about how ridiculous NFL media is and how everybody fawns over this defense optional bullshit.
Catfish!
1/3 of the football is played. Well, I guess maybe you can count special teams as playing then. So, only 2/3 of the game. It's just a joke. It's not fun to watch. It's pinball football. I mean, sure, if all these guys are on your fantasy team, then whoop-de-freaking-do. I bet you it's amazing for you. But for the rest of us, it's a boring-ass game.
Well, I don't think it was the type of game where... I mean, it got to the point to where they were just scoring willy-nilly, like ridiculous in the final 2 minutes. But I think that the reason why it gets all this hype was because the way it kind of unfolded in the final 2 minutes. You had the backup quarterback in for Lamar Jackson. They say he had cramps. It looked like they may have been of the stomach cramp variety. And I know a lot of people give him a hard time that maybe he went into the locker room and to
have himself a dookie. Like, if he did, then good for him.
He was playing the Browns and took the Browns to the Super Bowl in the same game.
All right, I'll give you that one. Yeah. That was good. That's good.
But so for the benefit of those who didn't catch the game, Backup quarterback Trace McSorley had come in for Lamar Jackson, but then he gets injured right before the 2-minute warning. And if not, I think for that 2-minute warning, maybe Lamar doesn't make it out of the locker room in time, but he comes running out and it's 4th down and 5. They're down by just 1 point and they're outside of field goal range, or maybe they're not outside Justin Tucker field goal range, but they end up throwing a 44-yard touchdown pass on 4th and 5, taking the lead 42-35 after they get the 2-point conversion. And then the Browns, they get the ball back and you're thinking, okay, well, they have a chance now to tie it up. But they score so fast that the Ravens end up getting the ball back and Justin Tucker's able to kick the 55-yard. Like when the Browns scored with 1:04 left, you're thinking with Justin Tucker on the other side of the field, they left way too much time on the clock.
Yeah. Woo. That's what that kind of offensive fireworks will get you in those situations when there's just no defense. You got to figure that with a minute odd some left, that's probably still a 2-possession game.
It was. They had 3 more possessions after the 2-minute warning because they scored on the very first play after the 2-minute warning.
Yeah.
The fact that you let Hollywood Brown, the one guy, get behind your defense to the point where he scores a touchdown. Like, I know Lamar Jackson, you have to account for him running the football, but you should also account for the one guy that can totally, blow the top off your defense.
Yeah, good thing to think about for sure. I think the DC maybe even had talked about it at some point to his player. You would at least hope so, but with the way they play defense, maybe they did. Yeah. I don't know. I guess the big thing, Brandon, at the end of the day is to just hear these media members, I think it was Rosenthal on NFL.com, just fawn all over this game. Game of the year, defense optional, boring football, fantasy football is the best and it reigns supreme. All that crap that I can't stand. For all of that, America's game of the year, do better.
You always have to get the dig in there with the fantasy, don't you?
It does bother me that it seems to run the football narrative all year more than it ought to. It just gets way more weight. People following it through fantasy and then viewing the league through the goggles of fantasy.
Yeah. That game would not have gotten game of the year status, though, if Lamar does not come out and throw that touchdown on 4th down.
Yeah, that's true. What if he hadn't have done that, but then yet just pooped his pants on the field? Would it have then been the game of the year?
Would have been my game of the year.
It would have been a moment of the year. I think there would be an ESPY somewhere in there.
I think maybe it does deserve some game of the year status, though, because all of the articles that I was reminded of players pooping their pants on the field after that game, I think that was worth it to go through that game and have that moment to just be reminded of all those other moments in the past.
Yeah, I guess that's one way of looking at it. I don't know.
I'm saying there's good that came from it.
There is. It's true fact.
So yeah.
Okay.
Well.
So yeah, that's it. That's your reaction to my do betters. So yeah. That's your. So there.
That could be your do better then.
All right. What about your do better this week? Who you got?
All right. My do better is for all the Patrick Mahomes futurists out there. And the reason that this got on my radar is because John Fraley of Field Goals, he tweeted out the fact that Russell Wilson's brought up pretty frequently as, breaking new records or being up among the greats. And he tweeted out Peyton Manning, 275 touchdown passes, Dan Marino, 266 touchdown passes, and Russell Wilson, with 3 games left in his 9th season in the NFL, has 263. So all he needs is 3 more to tie 4 to pass Dan Marino for the most touchdown passes in his first 9 seasons in the NFL. And it's the Patrick Mahomes futurists that just cannot let a stat like that go by them. Because in the comments it says, doesn't matter really, because Mahomes is going to get 500. And it's like, okay.
I love your new keyboard warrior voice. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't really matter.
Mahomes is going to throw for 70,000 touchdowns next year.
Yeah, that's my keyboard warrior voice.
Yeah.
You nailed it.
I like it. Thanks for debuting it.
And that's the thing. Why can't you just let that stat be what it is? Patrick Mahomes, he doesn't have 9 seasons in the NFL. So what are you supposed to put up? His 100 and some touchdown passes on that list? Or list everybody in between Mahomes and just to put him on this list? No, he doesn't belong on the list. So It's and it's not just with the passing touchdowns too. Earlier in this season, NFL Update tweeted out, Russell Wilson has thrown for 3,000 plus yards and 20 plus touchdowns in each of his first 8 seasons. Again, before this season. And it says if he does it again this year, he'll join Peyton Manning as the only quarterbacks in NFL history to reach those marks in each of his first 9 NFL seasons. Russell Wilson has done that now. The thing is, in the comment below, Patrick Mahomes futurist, Dak and Mahomes got next. And the thing is, Dak, he didn't make it through the season. And Patrick Mahomes doesn't even count as an answer because in his first season, he only played 1 game. So he has no way of being a part of this club. So even people who are Patrick Mahomes futurists, they don't understand Patrick Mahomes enough to know that in his first season, he can't go back and suddenly throw for 3,000 yards in his first season in the NFL because he didn't even play. Can't throw for more touchdowns in that one season. So, you know what? There's some records that it's okay for Russell Wilson to be a part of and not Patrick Mahomes. And for all the Patrick Mahomes futurists out there that can't get this through their head, do better.
Yeah, there is a distinct factual error in their argument there. Like, now, are you against futurists as a whole or just Mahomes futurists?
Just
like,
Mahomes.
I don't know if you had like a Buckminster Fuller hatred or, people of his ilk.
No.
Or if it was just, no.
No, it's specifically when dealing. Well, and it's not even really for people who think that Patrick Mahomes is going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback, because I can look at what he does and say, yeah, he's going to be, absolutely. If he continues on with what he's doing, he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks when it all comes down to it. But you know what? Russ is going to be there too. So it's just, there's things that Patrick Mahomes, he just can't be on the list with Russ yet because he doesn't have enough time in the NFL.
Right. And the other thing is, like, you don't know the future, actually. You don't know for sure that everything's going to go just, aces for Mahomes down the stretch. I mean, for his career and personally and all that, sure. I hope it does.
Sure.
But there's no guarantees of that. And Russ's, durability, that's tough to match. And, maybe the name should be more Patrick Mahomes, Miss Cleo's.
No, Miss Cleo never was wrong.
Oh, okay. That's tough. I was kind of rooting for that to stick more.
I thought I came up with the term, but
you did. Okay, we can keep it.
No, you wanted me to get rid of calling him Zeus, and we did that. And I realized that
I did not want you to stop calling him Zeus. The problem is that nobody else wanted to call him Zeus.
Yeah, I also found out that Orlando Brown was Zeus.
Oh, well, there you go. See? It's already taken.
So it was already.
It didn't stop Dwight Howard from taking Superman, right? When Shaq was supposedly Superman.
That's right.
Yeah. Some people, that is kind of a pretty low form. One athlete taking another athlete's nickname.
Yeah. Like if DK Metcalf all of a sudden decided he was going to be the Black Mamba.
Right. Yeah. Don't do that for a number of reasons. He's a Laker, but that's a pretty douchey move overall.
Well, it's pretty bad to give the nickname to yourself anyway. But when you take somebody else's nickname and then give it to yourself, that adds an extra layer to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Not a good look. Let's put it to you that way.
With this discussion about Mahomes, I do think there's still a case that you can make for Russ as a potential. Maybe he won't get MVP, but at least that he could earn some votes because of it.
Oh, he's going to get votes. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. You think with that narrative that somebody has to vote for him this year now.
Yes.
Okay.
They've been sufficiently guilted into it.
Well, and I think that there's cause for it because, his performance to start the season when the defense was struggling just at a historic level, he was able to keep the Seahawks, 5-0 record to get out to that kind of start with that historically terrible defense. That's worthy of votes. And this season, there's only 3 quarterbacks, Adam, with completion percentage over 70%, but Russ is the only one who has completion percentage over 70% and has 8 yards attempt or higher.
Yeah, he's playing at a very high level this year. He's one of the top 3 guys. I mean, take your pick of who you want.
Number 2 in the league in touchdown passes behind Aaron Rodgers right now.
Yeah, even with that little slump in the middle there of the season, strong finish. And not only that, Chris Collinsworth's ego will not allow for Russell Wilson to not get an MVP vote this last year. You remember back on Sunday Night Football a little while back where he talked all about how Russell Wilson not getting an MVP vote was his fault personally.
Oh,
because of some stupid snafu or something. I don't know, but he was trying to take the blame.
Okay.
For that.
So he's going to have to. He's going to have to.
He's going to make the vote and then get back on the airwaves and then remind us that it's because of him this year and his ego and all that. Like he'll make sure we all know about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's a good call.
You can take your tinfoil hat off now.
What? No, I thought that was good analysis.
Okay. Well, maybe it's a really good conspiracy theory. Be one in the 5,000 that turned out to be true.
All right. On to Better at Life.
All right, man. My Better at Life than Skip Bayless this week is Japan's space agency. And apparently they named their
Space Force.
Space agency. Yeah. But they don't have a name. They're just Japan's space agency.
Oh.
It's a lot like when they first came out with Toyota trucks. Like it wasn't the Tacoma. There was no name for it. It was just Toyota pickups. Apparently they named their space agency the same way.
You know what would be a good name for a space agency, though? Space Force.
Space Force is a solid name for a space agency.
Yeah, they should think about that.
It's one of the things I support. Yeah. So anyhow, maybe I lied. Maybe they're the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency. That just rolls right off the tongue. Yeah. So Jia did something really cool here. And they sent a probe out to an asteroid. It was large, long mission. They landed on the asteroid twice, and they actually sampled rock and also gases from the asteroid itself. Shot it back over here to Earth, dropped it off in Australia, picked it up, and they were successful. They actually brought catfish back from an asteroid.
Wow.
And when they were done, they were like, yeah, boy.
And they didn't blow it up?
No, they didn't blow it up. It's the first time this has ever been successful. And so I think that's pretty darn cool. We're going to learn a lot about asteroids and their composition and, a lot of the more primordial forms of the solar system. That's what you kind of find there. So to the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency.
Yeah.
Better at Life than Skip Bayless.
I love that. I love that name.
Yeah.
Wasn't Ryan Lochte the guy that did that, the swimmer?
Yeah,
Didn't he say that?
That sounds about right. Yeah, he says a lot of things.
My Better at Life this week is thanks to Delwyn in the Discord, and the Better at Life is for Kelly Victoria. And it's kind of a cool story. I'm going to put it in the show notes just because it's a longer story, but I will give you the gist of it here. She came across a little note on a tree that said, "Our 4-year-old girl made this to brighten your day." And it was like a little fairy house. And it says, "Please add to the magic. Don't take away." And it says, "These days can be hard, but we're in this together. So enjoy our fairy garden and some nice weather." And so, just a nice little pick me up for people who are, dealing with the pandemic stuff going on. And Kelly comes across this note and so decides to add to it, but also left a little note too. And so this note for the 4-year-old girl, it says, if she did these few things, then she would leave her some magical dice. And the things that she had to do for the 4-year-old girl was say 5 nice things to people you love, to do 3 helpful things for someone in need, and to promise to always be kind and brave, and to show love to those in need. Oh, and she also draw a picture of your favorite animal so I can show the other fairies. So it sounds like the 4-year-old did all those things, and so she left her the dice, and she also left her contact information for the kid's mom, just to know that she, wasn't some kind of creep that was leaving notes for her kid and all that. And
yeah, that's a good move.
It's a smart move. It's good to think about those kinds of things. And so they pass notes back and forth to one another over the days, and adds to the fairy garden, and so kind of strikes up a friendship between this fairy and the 4-year-old little girl. She does like a Photoshop picture of her in like a little fairy outfit that she leaves for the girl. And the sad part is that ultimately she has to move away. And the kicker for the story for Kelly is that she said, "Doing this every night gave me purpose in a horribly painful and lonely time. I looked forward to my days again and started ordering art supplies and little trinkets to leave her. I wrote back and forth throughout the last 9 months, and it helped them both feel less lonely." So not only did it brighten the day of the 4-year-old, it also made Kelly what she felt like was a real sense of purpose to continuing on with this relationship between Sapphire the fairy and the 4-year-old. And just, it's a really, one of those stories that's, Hallmark movie type thing that really hits me. And so, Delwyn, for knowing me and bringing this to my attention, I am giving it to Kelly for just her show of just a nice thing to do in the midst of the pandemic. Kelly, better at life than Skip Bayless.
A random act of kindness.
Yeah,
no doubt about it. One thing I did find interesting about that is that the fairies didn't want to know much information about you, except for they wanted you to draw a picture of your favorite animal. I mean, does that just tell them everything they need to know about you?
Is that
depending on what you draw?
Is that asking for too much information? Like, are you?
It's like the census. They come by, they ask you all these questions.
Yeah,
and you
don't need to know my favorite animal. I might need to use this on a 2-factor authentication online sometime.
Yeah, get out of here. How do I know you're really with the census with your census code?
Yeah, first you ask me for my favorite animal. Next, you're going to ask me for my first make and model of my car.
Right, yeah.
Then my birthday, and then my social security number, and then you're in my bank account.
Some intrusive fairies, That's how this starts. No, I wondered if that offered them some insight into us. Like, what if you drew I don't know, something ugly, like a ram? What would that say about you?
Well, from the picture, I think she drew a pig.
Still better than the ram. I think we can all agree on that. Yeah.
If I were in this situation and she drew a ram, then I think I would be leaving some Lamar Jackson surprises in her fairy garden.
Oh, Brandon, you've left a lot of little Lamar Jackson surprises all over this podcast. It's been fun this week.
And with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.